my sister was unalived with a man that she met 3 weeks prior. So in 2014, my sister had just turned 27 years old, and she lived in another city in Pennsylvania with my mom. She was a loving, caring individual, and I feel like she was just kind of searching for love, but searching for love in the wrong places. She started dealing with this guy, and from what I understand, this guy was a drug dealer, and he didn't like kids. So that's a key part to this story. So one day, he, I guess, had went to New York City, did some things in New York City, and then he was on his way back to the city that they were living in. I guess he called her and said that he was going to pick her up so that they can hang out, and apparently they were supposed to go to the movies. So he comes into town and he picks her up. And when he picks her up, actually before they leave, my mom has this feeling, like she has this eerie feeling like something just isn't right. And so she said to her, she was just like, listen, if you're going anywhere, then you need to take your son with you. And my sister was like she was so determined to go out with this guy that she literally was like, okay. Even knowing that this guy didn't like kids, she was so desperate to go that she said, okay. So apparently, like the moments before she walked out the door, my mom said she got like another eerie feeling, and she just was like, you know what, never mind, just leave him here. So she leaves her son there with my mom, and then she goes out the door. So she goes with this guy, and apparently prior going to the movies, they make a pit stop at his apartment. So they're in the apartment, and from what I understand, while they're in the apartment, at some point she ends up going to the bathroom. And while she ends up going to the bathroom, there is a knock at the door. And from what I understand, with the knock at the door, he looks through the peephole and he sees somebody that he knows. That's a major part to this story. So he opens the door, and when he goes to open the door, this guy like kind of bum rushes into the door. So not the person that he saw in the peephole, it was a man. So he saw his ex-girlfriend in the peephole, so he opened the door, not thinking anything of it. However, come to find out, the ex-girlfriend had a new boyfriend, and she was setting him up. So he bum rushes through the door and comes in, gets him down on his knees, and somehow there's a scuffle, and he shoots the guy that my sister is dating in the back of the head. And when the shots go off, of course, you know, they're loud. So my sister was in the bathroom, so she didn't think anything of it. So she literally screamed. And when she screamed, because she heard the shots, that's how they knew that she was there. So they go back there to the bathroom and shoots her twice, once in the upper left arm and then down in the torso. And then they leave. So with them leaving, I guess neighbors heard gunshots, but never called 911. I guess maybe didn't want to be involved or what have you. So come to find out, the boyfriend and girlfriend who committed the crime called some crackheads and had them go back into the apartment and take his phone and my sister's phone. He paid them X amount of dollars to go in there and take the phones. So they go in, take the phones. They don't take any money. They don't take anything else that's in there. They literally take the phones. And then the girl that took the phone then does an anonymous call to 911 and says that she thinks she heard a shooting. However, by this time, they were already, they've been gone. They've already been laid in there, deceased. My mom said that she woke up out of her sleep. And when she woke up out of her sleep, she had just like this feeling. So when she looked, she saw that my sister, wasn't there, didn't come home. So she called her phone, and she said when she called it the first time, the phone rang. It rang until it went to the voicemail. No answer. So she said she waited a few minutes, and then she called the phone again. Well, when she called the phone again, the phone immediately went to voicemail. So at that point, I'm thinking they had already got a hold of the phones and then maybe turned the phones off so that, I don't know, maybe something with the locations or what have you. So my mom says, even though she was feeling away, it was late at night, so she went to sleep. So as she goes to sleep, there's a knock at the door. And so follow for part 2. This is part 2 on how my sister was unalived with the man that she met 3 weeks ago. To start off from the last video, so at exactly 5 o'clock in the morning, there was a knock on my mom's door. So she thought that she heard something and she wasn't sure. So then there was a knock again. So she gets up and she goes to the door and she says, "Who is it?" And when she says, "Who is it?" the 2 detectives were standing there and they stated who they were. So she opens the door. So when she opens the door, she's still kind of like frazzled. Like she's kind of almost feeling like she's in a dream because she opens the door and 2 detectives are standing at the door. So she's like, "Can I help you?" And they say, "Hi, ma'am, we're wondering if you know a woman by the name," and says my sister's name, Aisha Holden. And it's not funny, but my mom says, because if you had to know my sister to know how she was, like she was funny. She always cracked jokes. Like you just couldn't really take her serious. So the first thing my mom says is, "Well, what did she do?" So they said, "Can we come in?" So she lets them in. So I guess they're like asking her all these different questions. Like, when's the last time she talked to her? And she's basically saying like, I've been calling her and calling her. The phone did ring, but now it's going to voicemail. And then she basically breaks down the situation that, she met this guy and that he came to pick her up and he was supposed to be taking her to the movies. And, she went off with this guy and she hasn't heard from her since. She said she started calling her like around 11:45 midnight that night. And the phone, it rang for a little bit and then she started calling it again and it started going to voicemail. So long story short, they ask her, at this point, she tells them like, "That's my daughter, like what's going on? Because what is all this about?" Like she's starting to get frustrated because you know how it is when the detectives come, they ask all these questions before they basically tell you what's going on. So at some point within the conversation, they ask her to sit down. And so she goes to sit down. And when she goes to sit down, they proceed to tell her that my sister was unalived. At this point, when they tell her that, she still does not believe them. Like she does not believe that that they just told her that her daughter's unalive. So she's like, "You need to call my daughter." But at this point, she's saying, "Call me." She's like, "You need to call my daughter. You need to call my daughter. Like, I don't understand what's going on. Like, what are you talking about? Is this a joke?" She was alone. And at the same time, she had my sister's son with her who was sleeping. And at the time, he was only 3 years old. So at this point, she starts calling my phone, but it's 5:30, almost 6 o'clock in the morning. And I had to be up for work at 7 o'clock in the morning. So, I didn't hear the phone. I had the phone on vibrate. So she calls my aunt, and we're extremely close. So at some point, my aunt starts calling me and my cell phone, I remember it like it was yesterday. My cell phone starts ringing on the nightstand and it actually felt like I was in a dream. The phone was ringing, and it rang so much that it fell off the nightstand onto the floor. And so when I picked up the phone, because it was ringing, it was my aunt. And I literally like went off. I'm just like, "Why do you keep calling me? Like, I got to get up. I got to go to work, yada, 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 whatever. So she's like, get up. She's like, "I'm on my way to get you. I'm on my way to get you. Something happened to Isha. And I'm just like, what? Now, key part to this. I know this sounds absolutely insane, but 2 years prior to my sister's unaliving, I had a dream that she was unalived in a ditch. And I remember I called her on the phone and she didn't answer for hours. And when she finally answered the phone, I literally cursed her out. Like, "Why didn't you answer the effing phone? Like, I've been calling you. I had this dream. I was worried, yada, yada." So it's crazy that exactly 2 years to the date of that dream, my sister was unalived. So I get myself, like I jump up, I'm like frazzled. I'm like trying to get myself together, everything like that, throwing some clothes on. So I call into my job and I let them know that I'm not coming in because something happened to one of my siblings. That was all I said. So in the meantime, By then, my aunt gets to my house, and it's about a 45-minute ride to where my mom lives in the next city over. So we're riding up there. Now, mind you, as we're riding up there, in my mind, I'm thinking, not that this is a joke, but I'm thinking, like, there's no way that, like, this is true. Like, I know we're going to get there. She's going to be okay. Or, she just didn't come home. Like, there's no way. So while we're riding up there, I get online and I look up the news in my mom's city. And it says, male and female found deceased in an apartment building. So, and it's crazy because look at my hands. I'm like shaking, reliving the story. But even then in my mind, I'm like, there's no way that is her. Follow me for part 3. Part 3 on how my sister was unalive with a man she met 3 weeks ago. So to jump off from where I was in part 2. So I'm riding up, I see the article, and I'm still in disbelief, like, no, there's no way this can't be. So we get up to the city and we get to my mom's house. And when I get there, my mom is just, I felt like she was like in shock. Like she came out of her apartment and, my nephew was there, who again is only 3 years old. And, he's bouncing around and bopping around, and my mom starts telling us all the things that the detectives, and the cops said to her and like all these different things, but it still doesn't seem real. However, they said that we needed to go to the hospital to ID her body. So at this point, we all get in the car, which is me, my mom, my aunt, and my nephew. And I had reached out to my sister, had a different dad. So we have the same mom, but she had a different dad. So I had reached out to some of her dad's side of the family, and 2 of her cousins said that they were on their way up to the hospital as well. So we get to the hospital. The crazy part is, as I told you in part 2, that I called into my job. When I called into my job, instead of it being a private matter, which to this day I'm still disgusted, it literally spread like wildfire. They literally must have been chatting and like trying to find out information and all this other stuff. It got out so fast. So mind you, this is in a city 45 minutes over. It wasn't even in the city that I lived in. When we get to the hospital, we walk in and the craziest thing happens. We go to security and we tell them why we're there. I gave the security my ID and everything like that, which is crazy, is the phone rang as I'm standing there. And guys, please forgive me because I'm a little shaky because it's every time when I think about it, it's like reliving it all over again. But I'm standing in front of the security guard's office at the hospital and the phone rings. He answers the phone and someone on the phone says that they're me. So they call the hospital trying to get information on my sister and says that they were me. And it's so crazy. Like the guard was like, you're, Jasmine Holden or whatever. And they're like, yeah. And he's like, well, that's funny because she's standing right here in front of me. And then he hangs up. So people were literally already calling, trying to be nosy and get information. So we sit down for a couple of minutes and they said we had to wait for, someone to come and get us. So someone comes and gets us and we all get in the elevator. Now, this is where it gets crazy. We get in the elevator and still I did not think that it was true that this was happening. I'm still like, no, we're going to go down there. We're going to ID the body. It's not going to be her. Like, this is a joke. It's not, we got in that elevator and the elevator started going down. And when it started going down, I honestly felt like my heart just like sank. But in my mind, I'm still trying to tell myself, like, there's no way, like this, there's just no way, like we're going to go in here. It's not going to be her. It's all going to be fine, whatever. So we get down to the bottom floor. It's so cold. It's dark. It's quiet. I didn't know that this is like the morgue of, the hospital. I've never been, in a situation like this before. So they take us to this room and the door's closed and they had 2 guards there. And I remember them saying, when you get inside, please, you're not able to, don't touch anything. Like, don't touch the body, you can't touch the body. So in my mind, I'm still like, there's no way. They open the door. And when they open the door, she was laying there. Like she was laying like I don't know if it was a bed or like what it was, but she was laying there and she was kind of like in a white bag and they had it like unzipped, and she had like a sheet, and the sheet was kind of like folded to here. And the crazy part is, now you got to understand that me and my sister were a year, not even a year and a half apart. And so when I walked in there and she was like just laying on the bed, and like, you know, her eyes were like not closed, but they weren't open. She had like a little piece of blood like coming down her nose. And in my mind, I still did not believe that she was unalive. Like, I could have, like, I was standing there and it was like, I felt like I saw her chest breathing. And I just remember like I didn't hear anything around me, nothing around me, like nothing at all. Like, come back for part 4. This is part 4 on how my sister was unalived with the man that she met 3 weeks ago. Sorry guys, I'm outside of my kids' soccer and I don't want them to hear. So anyway, as I was saying, so we walk into this room and she's laying there on the table, and everything literally, I can't hear anything. Like, I look over and my mom, literally, when I tell you guys, she was screaming. I mean, she must have jumped 10 feet off of the ground. And the security guards had to literally grab her and tackle her to the floor because she was screaming. And I mean, but in the midst of her screaming, it was like I heard her screaming, but I didn't hear her screaming. They tackled her to the floor, and at this point, I start calling my sister's name. I'm like, Aisha, Isha, get up, get up, get up. Isha, get up. And she's not moving. She's just laying there on the table, and I'm just literally, I'm calling her. I'm like, get up, get up, get up. And again, I'm still thinking she's like breathing, like even though she's not. But you know, when you're so in shock, you have no idea. And the last thing I remember, I just remember everything going pitch black. I must have blacked out. I must have, fell out. I must have, I don't know. But I come to it. I get up and I go over to her body. And I'm just looking. Like, I'm just looking at her. And like, it was like a dream. Like, just imagine your sibling, your loved one, and you're just literally standing over top of their deceased body. It was the most outer body experience, and it's something that honestly I wouldn't wish on anybody. I'm gonna continue with more videos, but to know me is to know that I took care of my sister. Like, my mom was on drugs, sorry guys, my entire life. And I practically raised my sister. So to see her laying there on a table like that, it was literally it was a pain that I can't even begin to explain. The pain, the hurt, it was pure insanity. So fast forward, guys. After that, we left the hospital, and then I honestly feel like I didn't even get time to grieve because, like I said, my mom was still an addict at the time. So everything fell on me. So I had to literally do everything from planning a funeral to, and then immediately I was a single mom already with my first son. So I had to take her son and take him back home with me. Like, I didn't have a babysitter, for him. I didn't have childcare. Like, it was just a lot, guys. Like, it was just horrible. It was the most horrible experience that you could ever imagine. Fast forward to the trial. First of all, the girl who helped her boyfriend murder the guy and my sister, she fled. So she had to be captured by bounty hunters, and she fled all the way to Florida. So they found her in Florida. They found him by stuff that he was posting on Facebook and like tips. And what's crazy is, for a couple of months, I would go up there because I kind of felt like, even though you know how investigations go where, they're doing work behind the scenes, but I just felt like the case was moving too slow. And I watched, a lot of First 48, and I just kind of felt like my sister's case was not being handled correctly. So I literally would leave work and drive 45 minutes all the way up to the next town. And I would go up there and basically look for clues and knock on doors. Like, when I tell you I was not letting her pass away in vain, I was knocking on doors. I have flyers, posters. I was putting them on trees and telephone poles and everything. And people were like leaving tips and like, putting stuff on my Facebook, and I was sending it over to the police. Like, it was just a lot. But at the end of the day, the guy was captured. So was the girl. They actually used the girl to turn on the guy to be able to fully pin everything on him. And all in all, the trial lasted for about a week. He got sentenced to almost 80 years. Because technically he got sentenced to 45 years, but he was already 42 years old when he went in there. So technically it'd be 80 some odd years that he would be in there with no possibility of parole. So even though I wanted him to get a life sentence, I mean, I was okay with that because that was the best that was on the table. I'm going to do another part 5 so that you guys can understand how I maneuvered with her son. And yeah. Hey guys, this is part 6 and 7. Tonight I'm doing part 6 and 7 of my sister was unalive with the man she met 3 weeks ago. So tonight I'm going to focus on a lot of things that I've been seeing. There's so much to go over still, but I'm going to go over some of the things that I've been seeing in the comments. So first things first, I never really did the upload an extra photo thing, so I'm going to try that. So I'm just going to point here, and hopefully I'm able to put the photo in, but this is the guy who unalived my sister. Now, I'm hoping that I'm able to put the picture in there. If I don't, guys, forgive me. I'll try to put it in the comments or something like that, but let's go there first. So the man who unalived my sister was sentenced to 40 years for a double unaliving. He was already 42 years old, so that would give him 82 years, until he's 82 years old to be able to get out of jail. That was the max of the sentence because it was 3rd degree unaliving, and then like some other things, using a hand, pew and all of that kind of stuff. As for her, this is major because so many people keep asking about this. As for her, she got time served. She got time served, which was technically 8 months. And the reason for that being is because they had to use her testimony against him because technically there was no one who saw it. So he could have potentially got off. So what they did was have her flip on him so that she could ID him as the pew man. And in exchange for that, they basically let her walk. It was actually heartbreaking because if you watch my other previous stories, you know that she was the one who set this whole thing up. So how dare they? And that was very hard because when they brought it to me, I was like, no, absolutely not. But then I had to understand after they broke it down, the detectives, like, listen, there's a chance that he could walk. So we have no choice but to go this route. So she basically got time served. Another main thing that I want to touch on, guys, is there's so many people that are in the comments basically saying, how do you know, like basically word for word what happened? Let me explain that to you. So a lot of you know watching the previous videos, and I'm going to go into a whole nother video in regard to my mom, but let's talk about this right now. So I spoke on, my mom with her addiction and things like that. So you could only imagine, my mom was already in addiction. So can you imagine now knowing that her daughter was unalive, what that did to her? My mom literally was done for. Like, she, when I say went off the deep end as far as the drinking and drug use and all that kind of stuff, just a mess. My sister, for those of you that don't know, was the youngest of us 3. And you know how they always say, like, your parents don't have favorites, but we all knew that my sister was my mom's favorite. They were like this. The relationship was extremely toxic between them two, but they were inseparable. So that left me as the next of kin in line to be able to handle everything. So as far as like the investigation goes, so when the detectives were doing all their work and everything went through me. Everything, the phone calls, we got this evidence, everything that they were finding out, it was all going through me. The detectives were literally calling me for months, telling me how this went on. Also, there was cameras inside the boyfriend's apartment. So the cameras gave them pretty much a lot of the information. So you could hear the screaming, you could hear the knock at the door, you could, like, all of that stuff, you literally saw it all on camera and you could hear it. Now, I have to be honest with you guys. Some of the stuff, because that was my sister and I was so still going through it and just so hurt, there was a lot of things that I didn't want to be a part of or I didn't want to see. Because I've had a previous family member who passed away, I knew how the investigation worked. So if you've been through this, you know that toward the trial or during the trial, they come with this manila envelope. And in the envelope is pictures of the actual crime scene and your deceased loved one and all of that. And I told the detectives from the beginning, please, do not, under any circumstances, show me any pictures of my sister deceased. I was the one that was in control of everything as far as my sister's funeral went. And a lot of you guys don't know, but I'm actually a beautician. And so I was strong enough to even do my sister's hair the day of her funeral. Again, I was still in shock. So it wasn't hard to do because it still did not hit me that she was gone. Like, yes, she was laying there. Yes, she was in the casket that I picked out. Yes, she was deceased, but it's still, because you got to remember, I got her son and then I went right into planning a funeral. So everything was moving. There was people around every single day. So I never got a chance to actually grieve. So I was moving, planning, never was alone. Like, so I told them, do not show me the photos. I wanted to remember my sister the way that I laid her to rest. I didn't want to see her laying there. I didn't want to see the scene. I didn't want to see blood. I didn't want to see any of that. I did not. So I ran the entire investigation, went through me. So for the people who keep asking, how do I know how this happened, that happened? The detectives called me every other day, or when a couple weeks went by, I was the point of contact. When the trial went on, I was the point of contact. When they came to me with the plea for her and the sentencing for him, everything went through me. I also want to touch base on my sister. I got a copy of her death certificate, but I was not, and I'm still not strong enough to get a copy of her autopsy report. I didn't get a copy of the autopsy report because in my mind, I did not want to see the time that she was pronounced versus the time that they thought that she was pew-pewed. Where my sister was pew-pewed, it was like in her upper left arm and then her bottom torso. In my mind, I just felt like that's not an instant death. So I felt like it played in my mind, y'all. It played in my mind for weeks and weeks and weeks and months and months and months. It played in my mind like, did she just lay there? Like, did she lay there just dying? Like, just thinking like she made the wrong decision or she shouldn't be there? Like, did she just lay there just knowing like nobody was coming to save her? Like, nobody was coming. And I just felt in my mind like she probably just bled out because nobody came. No one called 911. Like, so I, to this day, have not ordered a copy of her autopsy report because I didn't want to see those times. I didn't want to see the time that they believe she passed away to the time that they pronounced her, like in between. My soul cannot take feeling like she just laid there and just knew that nobody was coming. Like, nobody was coming. I'm going to leave off here and then I'm going to go to part 7. Okay, guys, this is part 7 of my sister was unalived with a man she met 3 weeks ago. So forgive me, guys. I had to get myself together. I want to touch base on, in part 7, on some pieces from the funeral. And then also I'm calling out the church and what they did to me, because a lot of people are in the comments talking about the church, the church, the church, the church. Let me tell you about the church. So the funeral happens. I planned the entire funeral. So from picking out the casket to, picking out her clothes. And what's crazy is now, I don't know if any of you have buried a loved one, especially someone extremely close to you. There was like so many things that I didn't know. Like, for instance, I don't know if you guys knew, but I had to get my sister bra and panties. Like, I didn't know that you bury the deceased. And forgive me, because a lot of people have been negative in the comments too, and it's not okay. But I had to buy bra and panties for my sister. Her favorite color was purple, so I buried her in purple. I got a rosary made to put in her hands, and it was purple. I put a picture of her son inside the casket with her. The casket was beautiful. It was white. I got gold trim on it. And then I did her hair. But again, in the midst of all of that, I was okay. Like, I was still rolling. Like, I was able to get up and speak. I did cry a bit when I spoke. But it was crazy. I had to have, which we'll touch on that on another story time. But everything was going the way that I felt like it should go. I planned everything to the T. It was a beautiful service. Like, everything was good. I will say this. It did not hit me until when they have the casket, they have this thing where they like spin it like this. And when they spin it, the body goes down into the casket so that they can close it. When they wheeled her down, her body went down in the casket. I lost it. Like, to me, it was giving, this is it. Like, and I'm going to do another story time, but like, y'all gotta understand, and I'm sorry, like I said, in my whole life, I would never cry on the internet. Like, I would never, but y'all, please just forgive me. I touched on, and I'm gonna do another story time on this too, but, I touched on, my mom's addiction and stuff. Like, it was me and her. Like, y'all don't understand. Like, it was days where my mom would be missing for 2-3 days at a time. There was days where, like, there was never no food. My mom would get her food stamps and she would sell her food stamps. And I would walk my sister miles in town, and we were so little. But I knew that if I could just get her to the soup kitchen, that we could eat. I'm a beautician today because of her. I was so smart when I was young, and I'm talking like, y'all don't understand, like we was 6 and 7 years old, like we was little. And I knew, like I had enough sense to say, like if I sent us to school looking like a certain proper way, that at least like nobody would know, like to call children in service. So I would get up in the morning and I would do her hair every morning with Blue Magic hair grease, or sometimes I would use Vaseline. And I will take our underwears and I will wash them out in the sink, because I was smart enough to know that we at least needed clean panties. So I will wash the underwears out in the sink and I would hang them in the back window. And it would be crazy because sometimes in the wintertime, you know, it was so cold outside that the underwear didn't dry in time. They would have icicles on them. Like, y'all don't understand. Like, I took care of her. I took care of her. When we was hungry, I used to go to my friend's house after school, and I used to pray that they would say, like, you can stay for dinner, you can stay for dinner, because I knew that my only meals was in school. So regardless of anything, I went to school, you know, like, so I could get breakfast and I could get lunch, but I knew I had to figure out dinner. So I would go to my friend's house after school, and I would pray that they would say, oh, you can stay for dinner. So what I would do is I would eat the food, but I would specifically eat half of the plate. And then I would like rush and act like I had to go home. And I would be like, well, can I take this with me? Because I would take it home for her, because I knew she was hungry. Like, when I tell you, y'all, like, y'all don't understand. I took care of her. So, and it's so much more that I could share with y'all, but you don't understand, like, when they willed her down and her body just went down into the casket, it was like everything went. The hurt, the pain, the hungriness, the not having clothes, the being made fun of, the bullying, like all of it. I just felt like I protected her. Like, I protected her entire life. I'm talking about, y'all, like, when somebody wanted to rumble my sister, like, all she had to do was call me. Like, when I tell you it was me and her, it was me and her. It was me and her until the end. And so that pain of seeing her go down in the casket, I just felt like I couldn't protect her. I felt like I protected her all my whole life. And I just carried the weight of just feeling like I wasn't there, like I couldn't protect her. And so, like, I said I wasn't going to do another story time, but because I know this was supposed to be about the church, but I just feel like, y'all, I've been through therapy, and it's what got me through, but I just want to share this with the world. Like, if I can just help one person, one girl, one woman that just doesn't listen or listen to the signs or anything, like, I just pray that y'all just watch this and just listen and be careful, you know, about the people that you surround yourself with, and just make smarter decisions. I said I wasn't going to do another story time, but I'm going to come back and just do one more for tonight. This is part 8 on my sister was unalive with the man that she met 3 weeks ago. So in the previous video, I said that I was going to talk about the church, but then it just got too deep and I got totally off topic. But a lot of people in the comments are saying, you know, if you had a good church home and all this other stuff. One, I don't know why people think I'm not in church. If you have looked at my page, my life is God and Christ is my everything. I do nothing without him. And to be honest with you guys, I feel like the only way that I made it through this entire tragic situation was knowing that To be absent with the body is to be present with the Lord. And me and my sister were baptized together. And so I know that she made her way to heaven. But let's talk about the church. We both were members of this church. I'm calling them out. Zion Baptist Church in Reading, PA. We were members of that church. We were baptized together August 1st, 1999. Our foster mom, because that's a whole nother thing. I'll eventually get into it because we went to foster care. But our foster mom was big into church, and that was the church that she was a part of. So we got baptized there, and we went to that church for years. Now, as a lot of you know, sometimes you move away and you move to different cities and different states, but that's always your church home. So, and a lot of you know, like in Black churches, when you come home, you know, they ask you to stand and you say, you know, this is my church home, but, you know, I'm bringing you greetings from, you know, and then you state your new church home and yada, yada, yada. Okay. So not only that, what also is crazy is in churches, you cannot be a member there and you can get married there. You know, they rent out the hall when it's the people on the sick and shut in list. You know, when they pass away, you know, they have their funerals there, even though they haven't been to church in years, you know, all of these different things. But let me tell you what they did to me. So, you know, my sister was unalived, and what's the first thing you do and first people you lean on? Your family and your church family. I went to church. I paid my tithes and offering every Sunday, took my son to church, dressed him in the best of the best, showed up, was on time for years. So when my sister was unalived, the first thing I thought of was call my church, because I could do, you know, her, even if I didn't do her funeral there, I could at least do her repast, because my family has a great relationship with the funeral home that I buried her at. So I was like, okay, even if I use the regular funeral home, at least I could do the repast here, right? So I calls down to the church. I don't get no answer at first, so I leave multiple messages, right? So I'm leaving messages, you know, I'm calling multiple times in a day because, you know, I'm planning everything. I'm trying to get everything set. And this is simply to do the repast, because at this point I already have the funeral planned out, but I wanted to do the repast and have a place that, you know, family and friends and, you know, we could gather and sharing memories and all these different things. So I'm calling. So day one, nobody calls back. So day two, I call, leave multiple messages, you know, nobody calls back. So at this point, I have certain members of the church contact. So I reach out to, and I don't even know if they even deserve grace for me to even put their names out there. So I won't do that. But I reached out to one of the deacon and the deaconesses that I was close to, like the closest to, like literally knew them almost my entire life. Reached out to them, left a message with the husband, didn't hear nothing back, but I called the wife. So, you know, called her up on the phone and basically just let her know that I was looking forward to using the church's basement, so that, now mind you, they have all kind of events there, all kind of knitting services, outside services, people's wedding receptions. Mind you, people that don't even go to church. I know people who have got married at Zion Baptist Church and were not members of the church. But okay, that's neither here nor there. So, you know, just let them know, like, hey, I'm looking to use the basement of the church. I don't need anything additional. If there's a fee, I'll pay the fee, whatever it is, you know, or if you're not looking for a fee because I'm a member, I'm still going to I would love to give the church a donation for just allowing me to use the space. So the first thing she said was something like the hospitality crew isn't available for that day or something. So I'm saying to myself, well, I don't need the services of the hospitality crew. Like, I just need to use the space, in which people have done kids' birthday parties there as well. Let's be clear. So the hospitality crew isn't doing Ray Ray's second birthday party. Okay. So that was the first excuse. So then I came back and I'm just like, I don't need the hospitality crew. Like, my family is willing to come in and help me, and we do the food and everything. We literally just need the space. That is it. Do you know that they tried to tell me, mind you, no one from the church called me to even ask me how I was doing, if I needed anything, Lord, to even give sis a prayer. Nobody called and checked for me. Meaning, this is a place that I go to every Sunday, that I pay my tithes to, that I am in prayer with, that I show up for, like my church home, as in I was a grown adult and been going to this church since I was like 9. No one called me. No one called to check on me. No one sent condolences, not a flower, not a card, nothing. So then I was told that because she moved away, technically she wasn't a member of the church, so I can't have her repast there. When then the reality was, because people at the church talk, so it got back to me. The reality was, the church didn't like the manner in how she passed away. And so because they didn't like the manner in how she passed away, they refused to allow me to have the repast at the church. So people who aren't members of the church can get married there. All of these other activities and things like that can go on. But my own church home, who I loved and trusted, did not allow me to do my sister's repast, not even the funeral. But they would not allow me. Zion Baptist Church in Reading, Pennsylvania, would not allow me to do my sister's repast at their church, which was my church, I should say, because they did not like the manner in the way that my sister was unalived. And so after the last phone call where I said that I didn't need the hospitality crew to assist with the repast, they just stopped answering my calls altogether. They did not return any calls. They didn't pick up the phone for me. They didn't check for me. They didn't ask, okay, well, did you still want to do this? No one called. No one called. So that's how I know it's true. Because if I asked you more than once and then you just flat out don't return the call, clearly it was true. But I will say this. Pastor Edlow, who was our pastor, or Reverend Edlow now, who was our pastor when we were children, drove up from Philly. Him and his wife is now on the other side in heaven. God rest her soul. I am so grateful for them, because they came from out of town, would not take my money that I offered them to do my sister's services, did the services, and it was absolutely beautiful. In the end, everybody went out to eat at a restaurant, and we gathered at the restaurant, and that was all that I was able to do because it was so last minute. I'll be